After I had been ordained for 10 years, I was gifted with a 1-year sabbatical. And I spent a large portion of that 1-year sabbatical on an extended retreat with the Religious Sisters of Mercy in Alma, Michigan. This was a wonderful time of prayer and renewal for me. For the Religious Sisters of Mercy, they live a very balanced life. The Religious Sisters of Mercy balance prayer, recreation, and work. And so while I was on retreat with them, I too needed to live that balanced time of prayer, recreation, and work. And so since I had to do some work, I was there, they discerned what would be a good thing for me to do. And considering I had 5 degrees in horticulture, I became their groundskeeper for the time that I was there. And they had just built a new chapel, and they asked me if I would landscape it for them. So I put together a landscape design for the new chapel, and then I had a great time going to all the local nurseries begging for materials for this because they had no budget. So they really couldn't afford a landscape architect or somebody to do the landscaping, and they couldn't buy much of anything. So don't worry, I solved that problem. I put together a design. I went to the nurseries. This one had the most incredible weeping cherry trees with the trunk already about this big on them, and the root ball was huge. I not only got them to donate those weeping cherry trees, I even talked them into coming and planting them for us. Of course, I brought a couple nuns with me. There's nothing better than bringing a couple backup nuns when you're going out and asking for things. So we got the chapel wonderfully landscaped, and we put in all these flowers and bulbs and everything else. And I had a great time as a groundskeeper, except one day I ended up with a terrible sliver. Have you ever gotten one of those slivers that you just can't get out of your finger no matter what you try? So I just went to one of the sisters and I said, I happen to get a sliver and I just can't get it out. Can you help me with it? And she said, sure, I'm a surgeon. Well, certainly caught me a bit off guard, because I guess I never really spent time thinking about what the sisters did for their day jobs. And it turns out that the sisters, they ran a clinic for those who were in need. And they staffed their own clinic. So the Religious Sisters of Mercy were surgeons, doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, nurses. The Religious Sisters of Mercy were an incredible gift to the community around them. I loved spending that time. As you can see, those sisters, they ran a mean leaf blower. And so we had a great time as groundskeeping, cleaning all those leaves. And then as you can see, those sisters were not even afraid to whip out a chainsaw and help with the chainsawing around the property. But as you can also see, the Religious Sisters of Mercy were great doctors and provided a great need to the community. When I was sick, you cared for me. So I asked the sisters how they chose to do what they did. And they said that their inspiration was the gospel of Jesus Christ. That they were called to lives of holiness by putting the gospel of Jesus Christ into action. And so for me to better understand their calling, they had me go and read the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, verses 31 to 46. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world." The Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, verse 34. How are we called to live, preparing ourselves for God's kingdom to come? How are we called to live, preparing ourselves for God's kingdom to come? Well, the religious Sisters of Mercy decided to live their lives by putting that gospel into action. And so they would discern what was a sister's gifts or talents. What did they really like to do? And then they would help those sisters to develop those likes and talents to help the community at large. You see, the sisters taught me that the goal was, of course, heaven. But not just for each and every one of us to get into heaven, but how can we help others to get into heaven? And they realize that one of the best ways to do it is to help people to get a taste of the kingdom of God here on earth. Today we celebrate the feast of Christ, the King of Kings. This Christ who told us this gospel describing what his kingdom is like. A kingdom where we care for the needy, where we have a concern for the needy, where we see the face of Christ in the needy. So the religious Sisters of Mercy, they lived what we called the corporal works of mercy. Remember those? Remember those corporal works of mercy? Give food to the hungry, good drink to the thirsty, shelter the homeless, clothe the naked, comfort the sick, visit the imprisoned. Those are the corporal works of mercy. What do we need to do to inherit the kingdom of God? Live the gospel of Jesus Christ in our lives like the religious Sisters of Mercy do. To see the face of Christ in those who are in need. To live the corporal works of mercy like the religious Sisters of Mercy did. They're a great inspiration and a great example. May they inspire us to do the same.